Hey all, Dr. Jared here. Wanted to share a concept or a philosophy with you. And more importantly, I wanted to ask you to think about if you agree with me. Now, this concept that I'm going to share is actually from a medical doctor, Dr. Zach Bush, a world renowned integrative medical doctor who's had more than 30 years experience in practice, came into modern medicine in the early 90s during what he would call the explosion of chronic illness in our country with autoimmune conditions, autism, ADHD, diabetes increases, and so many more. And he gave this analogy, and I've heard it actually many other places. This is not original to him, but I wanted you to think about this. He says, if you're standing by a river and you're seeing hundreds, if not thousands of people coming by you, and the river is deep and it's ferocious and people are drowning, they're dying. But you have the capacity to swim strongly enough and to have answers that can pull them out of the river and save their life. Would you do it? Of course you would, especially if you knew you could save them without a risk to yourself. Of course, you'd start pulling people out of the river. And while you're pulling one at a time, realistically, there's going to be a point where hopefully there's other people that are coming by and you're going to recruit them to also start pulling people out of the river and try and save their lives. Now, think about this. If they're drowning, are they probably going to have injuries? Are they going to have damage to their body? Are they going to have other issues? But you're saving their life in a crisis. He says, now this, if you think about this, this is actually a very similar philosophy that modern medicine has, where actually an increasing number of people are falling into the river, drowning, and dying earlier than they should have. And here's the problem with it. While we keep recruiting more and more people, stronger and stronger swimmers, more and more life-saving technologies, the reality is at some point, the most effective way to treat this situation is to start sending people upstream and find out what's causing the people to fall in the first place, or stop them from falling in. And I know that's pretty obvious, but think about it. With the current approach that most people take, how many people take a medication and ignore what's causing the problem, whether that's diabetes, whether that's cancer, whether that's heart disease, chronic pain, spinal issues, diseases with their kids, obesity, whatever it might be. At what point do we actually take responsibility for finding the root cause of the problem? And, with the exclusion of truly life-saving issues like infections or, late stage diseases, almost all treatments that people do, almost all drugs that people chronically take, allow the problem to get worse silently. They maybe extend life a little bit, but they also have massive side effects. So my question to you is philosophically, for you and your family, are you making sure that you don't fall in the river, or are you currently looking for help to save your life at the end? Are you resorting to drugs? Are you resorting to other things? Are you truly looking at and being responsible for your diet, your adjustment schedule, your exercise routine, your sleep schedule, your detoxification schedule, and all the things that go with it? Because over those same last 30 years, there is a reality. Food is of lower quality. Processed food has more crap and more chemicals in it than ever. Vaccinations have increased the amount of heavy metals and side effects from these. The chronic problems that occur has only increased. If the system or the solution worked, if you could ignore the problem and be treated after, our country and many other first world countries would be in a radically different position. And so the reality is, what it comes back to is, are you taking responsibility for your health? I would just ask you to think about that. And this is where setting a framework for your habits, what is a minimum standard for what you will buy or not buy in the grocery store? What's a minimum standard for what you will eat when you're out? What's a minimum standard for an adjustment schedule for a year? Not when it's convenient, but what is your minimum standard? What's your minimum standard for supplementation? What's your minimum standard for your kids? This is where life can truly change, is when you decide the things that you were just going to do, you have a unique opportunity to live a much higher quality of life. So I hope that resonates with you. Again, if you want to listen, I just listened to a great podcast by Dr. Zach Bush. But think about, are you hoping to get pulled out of the river, or are you preventing yourself from falling in? Have a very blessed day.